Well, as you can surmise, I'm back to making some gunpowder. And as the title is letting everybody know, I'm going to be testing Willow one last time. Now let me put a big qualifier on this. I want to thank my friend William. When I went down to that shoot with them guys at the Luz, there we go, shooting range, he was kind enough to give me a bunch of Willow. But it's just not any ordinary Willow, it's Pacific Willow. And the reason why I have an interest in this, because in the book, Like Fire and Powder by Brett Gibbons, on page 36, he has a list of some charcoals and how much gas they produce in a given measurement, okay? So buckthorn alder, or as he explains in the book, it's more of a dogwood than it actually is an alder. In a given measurement, it produces between 80 and 84 cubic inches of gas. So we can appreciate why buckthorn alder, or this dogwood, becomes a very powerful gunpowder when it's used from the charcoal source compared to other charcoals. Right underneath that is willow, and it is Pacific willow. He makes that distinction in the book, and that's listed right here. And that produces, in a given measurement, between 76 and 78 cubic inches. Now you can appreciate that the amount of cubic inches that he's talking about right here, there's not much of a difference between 76 and 78 or 80 to 84. Not really that much of a difference. But when you get down to the weeping willow, because he's got it listed again, and he explains in the book it's weeping willow, that produces, you ready for this? In a given measurement, 59 to 66 cubic inches of gas. So you can really appreciate that there's a huge difference in the amount of gas that a weeping willow will produce in a given charge. So we can see that when we shoot that through our chronographs, the numbers are not really all that consistent. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm cleaning up the pieces. William was kind enough before, well, he was cutting it for himself. Little did he know that perhaps years later he was going to be giving it to me. But most everything is about this size, about the diameter of your thumb, maybe a little bit more. So I'm cleaning up all the extra inner bark, and where there's a split, I'm splitting it, and I'm cleaning out what might be some garbage on the inside. Maybe some, dirt got into it at one point. I want to make sure that when I char this, it's as clean as possible. My char can, I've already burnt out all of the excess creosote from my last batch of gunpowder, which was grapevine, and I'm taking that to a rendezvous to demonstrate homemade black powder. But with this Pacific willow, I'm expecting for it to burn clean, to have consistent numbers going through my chronograph, and also a pretty powerful gunpowder compared to some of the other gunpowders that I've made and I've shared on this channel in the past. And I'm actually anxious to see, when I get everything done, how this actually compares to my peanut shell or even the mullein. I've got those numbers set aside. And when I get to that point, guys, I will put 15 grams of this Pacific willow in the glass jars, and I have plenty of weeping willow left over, so I'll weigh out 15 grams there also, and then we'll do the side-by-side comparison, and we'll just see perhaps what the specific gravity is when I have a weeping willow and a Pacific willow side by side. So I guess I'm going to get back to work cleaning up some of this stuff so I can get a can full of it, get ready to char it. So in the meantime, pour yourself another cold one, or depending on when you watch this video, if it's in the morning, pour yourself some more coffee. I'll be right back at you. So if you hadn't caught it, I'm couple of videos back, I had mentioned I'd got a custom order for a knife, and I had made a template out of a piece of wood, and I thought at this time I'd show you the finished product. Purple heart handle, brass guard, got some carvings across the back of it. I did not put a blood groove in it, but that is the finished product. Turned out good. It's very sharp, and the beauty of the knife is the sheath. My wife was kind enough to make a sheath for it with the lacing and the carving on the front. So I want to thank her for doing that, which really makes my work look good. And not that she doesn't know what she's doing, because she very much does. She's made holsters for me or other sheaths for me in the past that needed to be carved and, you know, laced up real fancy. But that's the whole product right there. Well, as you can see, we've now made it to the visual aid portion of the video, and as normal, the Weeping Willow with a .39 specific gravity occupies that much volume, 15 grams by weight, in this glass jar. Right next to it is the 15 grams by weight of the Pacific Willow, and as you can see, it's heavier than the Weeping Willow. I was a little surprised, but I'm glad to see this. Next to it is my mullen. It's 15 grams, and you can see how much that occupies compared to the Pacific Willow. And then next to it is the grapevine. Now, I know from past experience in testing, the grapevine and the mullen are very good gunpowders, and they burn very clean. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to empty out the grapevine charcoal and put 75 grams of potassium nitrate, and we'll observe what that looks like compared to the two willows. Well, there you have the visual aid. Potassium nitrate is situated between the two willows. Once again, this is the Weeping Willow. This is the Pacific Willow, and based on the volume of the Pacific Willow and the potassium nitrate, and from gained knowledge through experience in making homemade black powder, I'm guessing that the Pacific Willow was going to burn clean, and as mentioned previously, because of the amount of gases that it produces in a given charge, it's going to be a powerful charge. But until I get the gunpowder made and start shooting it through my chronograph, we won't know for sure. So stay tuned for that. Yes, I'm sitting in my truck. There's a bit of a breeze out there, but I kind of wanted to show you the color that I'm getting out of this Pacific Willow, just to show that it's not overcharring. I've got a really nice, I would say a good chocolate color to it. It's not black like it's overcooked. I just wanted to show this. So before I pop the lid off of this, I just kind of want to let everybody realize I let this particular batch go 41.5 hours, just simply because I elected to do a 200 gram batch. I normally do 100 grams, and at 36 hours it's done. This particular batch at 36 hours was already starting to cake up really, really tightly within the drum itself. So I broke that up, put it back in the ball mill. 30 minutes later, it was already caked again. So I decided every half hour I was going to go in, bust it up, just so that I can make sure everything is incorporated properly. At 41.5 hours, I shut it down and it's done. Now, if you reflect back, I showed what the color of the charcoal was. So now I want to pop the lid and show everybody what the color of the gunpowder is. And then I will do a 20 grain test burn to to see if I can kind of see if this is going to burn clean or just what it's going to do. But remember, I'm burning the powder. I'm not burning what's been corned. I'll do that a little bit later. So let me go pop off the lid and I'll give you all a look-see. Well, as you can see, it's compacted pretty good. I don't know how well the camera is picking anything up, but it does have a brown hue to it, even though it looks more gray. But if you look at it real close with the right sunlight, you can see the brownish hue to it. Which, if you remember back to when I milled that 100 grams of Swiss, separated the graphite from the gunpowder itself, it had a similar brown hue to it. So let me strain this. I'll get 20 grains of this in the powder form, and we'll see how it burns. That's what I like to see. Nice big fat thick chunks falling out. To me, that's thoroughly incorporated, thoroughly milled. But then again, that's just my opinion. Just want to give everybody a little look-see at the block so you can see how clean it is, so we can determine if this gunpowder is going to burn clean or just exactly what it's going to do. Not half bad. Let me give you a close-up of the block. Judge for yourselves, but I would say that's pretty clean. Yep. Very, very little. The fingertip. Alright, I guess I'm going to go to pucking it and corning it, and then we'll do another burn test. So while I was mixing up a little bit of this powder with my city water acetone combined 50-50 mixture, and reflecting back on how well this gunpowder was compacting in my tumbler, I thought what I would do was take just a little bit of it that doesn't have any water acetone mix to wet it down, and puck a little bit of it and see if it will compact better than it was in my tumbler. So here's that little puck, and I'm going to try to break it and see. Ugh. That broke pretty hard. I'm going to leave these two separated for now. When I get this finished, I'm going to go break this up and see what it looks like. So I decided to do a second one. That first one was pretty tough to break in half. I'm going to try this one and see if it's just as equally as strong. Yeah, it's equally as strong. So I'm going to go ahead and get these broken up, run through my ball mill, screened off to my normal 2,3F, and then we'll just do a burn test with this. Stay tuned. So there's the first grind, and as you can see, it didn't turn it all to powder. I'm going to close up the grind and see what it does at that point. So until you try something, you never know, right? By the time I got down to my final grind, what would give me my 2 to 3F, those two small pucks, I yielded more 4F than anything else. But I did manage to get 30 grains of my 2,3F. So let's zoom in on my anvil and see what the burn test looks like. So before I light the match, I just want to add into the context the only difference that I could surmise at this time with this test and anything else is the acetone, as it dries off, what it would leave behind on a molecular level. I would say, since acetone does burn and it can be used as an accelerant, that may make a difference. I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to test this as it is, and we'll see what it does. Well, that went up PDQ. Get your close-up of the block. Okay, there's the block. Again, you decide for yourself if that's acceptable for you or not, but in my opinion, that's pretty clean. That's pretty clean. And I would say that that went up just about as quick as any other gunpowder that I've tested that we blended 50% water and 50% acetone. So that was that test right now. And this was the previous burn with just the powder itself without anything being ground or corned. I'd say Pacific Willow is pretty damn clean burning gunpowder. Now, when I get everything finished, we'll head out to the range and see what it does through my chronograph. That'll be the real test, in my opinion. Well, as you surmised, rocks do grow. Now, I'm going through the sand pile looking for spent bullets so I can recast them. I like to have a straight wall when I'm shooting in my dirt pile. That's why I've been shooting up against multiple layers of wood. I don't have that right now, so I'm going to cut a straight wall so when I shoot, there's less chance of the bullet ricocheting and going up. And the other reason is every time the UPS driver or FedEx comes into the yard after a rain, half of my driveway ends up between their tires and it ends up on the highway. So I'm hoping to fill in some of those holes with the rocks and the broken up pieces of clay pigeons. They're biodegradable, so it's not going to hurt anything. Right now it's 8:30 in the morning. It's just barely 30 degrees, so I'm going to work at this for another half hour or so and then get set up, and then we'll test that Willow gunpowder. Stay tuned. Well, you see it like I see it. 1867. That's pretty impressive for the first shot. Let me show you what I'm shooting at, because I'm sure you heard the ring. So I set up my steel targets today. I don't typically do this, but since I don't have enough 2x4s to create the depth I want to capture the bullet, I guess I'll just get them and find them when they're flat. Alright, let's go for round 2. So in case anybody is curious, that's where the Pacific Willow rests volume-wise, 80 grains by weight. Okay, and these loads are settled, and I am using Pacific Willow in the flash pan. Alright, let me get loaded up and we'll get another shot downrange. Look at the size of that dent. Granted, this is just mild steel, but on the back side of this I have a reinforcement plate. I think I'm just going to go ahead and shoot into the embankment. So FYI, I couldn't find that patch. Hopefully I'll recover the others and see just how dirty or clean these patches will end up being. $17.74. So here's an early observation. I can't find the patches, but my rifle is telling me a story. I can get that bullet patched, pushed down to about that far off the powder charge, and then I got to really work to get that to set on the powder charge. So early indication would tell me I'm getting decent enough velocities even with that first shot, but it appears that this Pacific Willow is also dirty like the Weeping Willow. All right, get another number. $18.06. Well, I found that patch. I would say that's pretty dirty. Still damp. Looking at it, I can see powder caked on it. Yeah, in my opinion, that's pretty dirty. All right, I got a couple more shots to get off. So just in case anybody's curious, as usual, my black powder is a good blend of 2,3F with some 4F fines mixed in it. That's what I'm shooting. All right, finish getting loading and get another number. Just to let you see, right there, she's getting tough to seat the round ball. All right, stay tuned. That's dirty. That's pretty bad. After the third shot, I got a vent picket. Oh well. $18.15. Well, I found what is probably patch number 1 or patch number 2. And it's not that dirty, not compared to that third patch. But, alright, I got one more to go. What is that, 1793? Yeah. Let me see if I can find that final patch. Well, I found it. It's not as dirty as that third one. But I can still see some black powder caked on it. Like I said, not like that third one. Alright, I'm going to swab the barrel, and then I'm going to do some shooting with some weeping willow, so we can kind of do a little bit of a comparison here to see if there's really any difference. Stay tuned for that. Hold up a second. You might be interested in getting a close-up of the lock. You decide for yourself. I would say, based on past experience, that that's a little more dirty than some of the other gunpowders that I've proclaimed was clean, just simply because, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but there's chunks of it right here coming off of my finger. All right, I'm going to get it cleaned up and do some more shooting. Well, I think it's 1765. So comparing the first shot with the Pacific Willow and this first shot, there's quite a bit of difference. Let me see if I can find that patch. Not much left to that. It's disintegrated. But that's just the first shot, so it really doesn't tell you if it's dirty or not. I'm going to keep going at it. Before I actually get loaded up, you might be interested in knowing 80 grains by weight, where it sets volume-wise. Comparing it to the Pacific Willow, the Pacific Willow at 80 grains weight occupied more space in the powder measure. And I think the reason that is because this batch of Willow I made 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when I was still using dextrin as the binder. Now what I've done since then is I've taken all my Willow, separated 100 grams, and I added another gram of sulfur and let that act further as a binder. So I'm just surmising, and the reason why this is occupying less volume-wise as to the 80 grains per weight is it's because I believe it's the added sulfur and it's the dextrin. And years ago I got away from dextrin as a binder almost immediately, just simply because I noticed how much or how quickly it fouled up the touch hole. All right, I'm going to keep at it. $17.10. Okay, get you a couple more shots. So far, the Pacific Willow is definitely outdoing the Weeping Willow feet per second, but it's dirty, by my opinion, by my standard. Maybe not yours, but mine. $16.89. I think that's pretty conclusive right now. Weeping Willow is not a willow you would want to use for, black powder shooting, unless that's the only thing you can get your hands on. I don't know if the camera picked it up or not, but it was a smoky residue, the frizzen face that I had to wipe off before that shot went off. Let me go see if I can find that patch. Well, I found it. That's what it looks like. Giving you my opinion. I'd say it's a little dirty, just simply because I can see the powder caked up on it. Well, if I were to keep making Pacific Willow, I would use it in a revolver so that you're not pushing all that fouling along with the patch back down into the barrel. It might be a really good gunpowder if you put it in a, black powder revolver and it's just pushing all the fouling out, which is what I'm going to be testing here soon. Don't hold your breath. Soon may not mean the same thing for you as it does me. But while I got my chronograph set up, I'm actually needing to do something because I'm in the process of purchasing a new revolver. And I'm going to be shooting some 44 specials through my Rossi R92, just simply because the revolver I'm getting is 44 special, and I want to reload those just a little bit differently than I would for my rifle. So I'm going to get some velocity numbers, and I'm going to get some empty cases so that I could reload those for the new revolver that I have coming in. And just in case anybody's curious, I shoot Trail Boss through this rifle. I also have 44 Magnum loaded for this. I'm not shooting that obviously today. But the bullet diameter is .430 and it's 240 grain bullet. So let's see what it does through the chronograph. And that's why I like Trail Boss. I'm consistently in the 860s, 880. That's perfect. So I'm gonna just burn the rest of these, and we'll go in the shop and we'll review what I did with the black powder and the Willow. So here we are at the conclusion. 5-shot average, 1811, with a spread of 93. That first shot, 1867, going over some of my notes. Looking at my best first shot. Let's see here. It's right up there. Well, peanut shell was 1826. Sycamore, 1805. Pistachio, 1828. Hickory, 1838. Yucca, 1839. Mullen, 1813. Yeah, I think I gave you the peanut shell, 1826. I would say that Pacific Willow is right in line with about everything else, based on the spread of 93. To me, that's a pretty high spread when I compare, let's see here, Osage Orange, 5-shot average was 1765, but it only had a spread of 18. My peanut shell, 1760 with a spread of 34. Okay, some of my higher spreads, pistachio, spread of 64, hickory, a spread of 95, sycamore had a spread of 83, mullen, my mullen only had a spread of 38, and it had a 5-shot average of 1802. My mixed charcoals, Osage Alder, 5-shot average was 1880. Mixed charcoal, for those that say mixed charcoals aren't better, faster, more powerful, well, I beg to differ. But it had a spread of 82. Peanut shell alder, 1790, once again a spread of 39. So, based on what I've accumulated here for numbers, since I've had my chronograph, I would say that, Pacific Willow's right on par. Now, again, the spread was 93. Some people may not like that. I've been watching a few videos on the Fortune Cookie 45 channel, and he did a very nice, nice little excerpt on the value of your spreads if you have a given number of cartridges, and he was using a cartridge, not black powder, but a given number of your cartridges, then the percentage of a set number, you're going to have those that are going to achieve a little higher spread. You could probably go to his channel and find it. It's Fortune Cookie 45. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, that channel is the game for reloading. I don't mind what anyone else says, but as far as I'm concerned, he's the game when it comes to reloading information. So anyhow, I don't think that I would ever shoot this Pacific Willow in my long guns, just simply because you saw what I observed. It caked up pretty quick. On the third try, I think my flash pan went off, but it didn't get to the main charge, which would indicate touch hole was dirty. And for those that might be curious, the touch hole is .062, which is about average for touch holes. So, and I'm not even going to talk about the Willow, because I think you could see from shot number 1 to shot number 3, it dropped down quite a bit, which was on par with what I've accumulated in the past regarding Weeping Willow. So anyhow, I want to thank everybody for watching. I've got a gun to go clean, for sure. And my Rossi, I'm probably going to give it a good cleaning and bath too. And then I'm going to tumble some 44 special and get ready for that new revolver coming in. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope that you'll be kind enough to give it a thumbs up and share it with your bestest of buds. Bye.